and thank you for tuning in to People Are Animals Too, Darn It. Today, my guest is Kensie Drinkwine. Welcome, Kensie.
Thank you.
And Kensie, can we start out by you just letting us know a little bit about who you are?
Sure. I am the executive director with the Dodge County Humane Society. We're located in Juneau, Wisconsin. We're kind of a small rural shelter. I'm also an accountant by trade. I have my own accounting firm. 3 kids. They're all very heavily involved in athletics. So basketball season is upon us right now. And then, of course, I'm an animal lover. I've got 6 dogs and 2 cats currently residing with me.
Wow. So my understanding is that you are an accountant and an executive director.
That is correct.
Yeah. Which I have to be honest, in our office, we've had multiple conversations about how does she do it? How do you do that? Both of these and be a mom.
Yes.
What's the secret? Do you have any secret sauce?
I don't have any secret sauce. I have a lot of really good people in both of the careers, I guess, that help me to get through it. And then lots of help with my kids as well. So lots of good people in your life, I guess, is the secret to it.
That's nice. Well, and they tell you, if you want to get something done, give it to the busiest person you know, right?
I guess.
Now I know who I'm going to call when I need help.
No more things on my plate.
So, Kensie, you are, I wanted to talk a little bit about your journey. So you first joined the board of directors for the Dodge County Humane Society, and then things kind of progressed from there. Would you like to share that with us?
Yeah, you bet. I got asked to join the board. They were, of course, in need of a treasurer, so I kind of had a target on my back, I guess, for that. So I joined the board in May of 2014. And then as we kind of started this journey and started transitioning things, we very quickly figured out that we needed to change management of the shelter and leadership of the shelter on a different level. So with that, I started just doing more things, and then it just became apparent that it was becoming more of a job, and that I really wasn't serving a board member role anymore. And so then I took over as executive director at that point.
So without getting into anything personal, were there certain belief systems or things that were holding the organization back that made you want to make that management change?
There were. The shelter just wasn't honestly very successful in various facets. The animals were staying in the shelter too long. They were there between 3 and 4 months on average. We did not have a good reputation in our community. It was not a place where people felt welcomed at all. It was not a place where people felt like they could go for any kind of help or even to get a pet. We were hearing lots of negative things. And then financially, we were really struggling. We just did not have resources to get anything done either. So all of those things kind of led to the board making a decision that we really needed to make some changes for the organization to be successful.
And I'm sure that there are going to be people that are listening that relate to this situation. Yes. So when you came in, I know you did the leadership change, but can you talk about some of it, and keeping in mind, because I know I struggle with this, is once it's done, it's hard to look back at like those minute things. But if there are any kind of steps or smaller things that you could talk about that you came in and did that really started this process of changing your culture of the organization.
Oh boy, the small things. Yeah, I agree with you that when you look back, it seems like so long ago and so hard to remember. The first step for us was really just our organization. We weren't even vetting animals until they had an approved adoption application. So when I think back to what we changed day one, that was the first thing we did. All the animals went to the vet. And we really just changed. So our first initiative with the community was, we're going to offer up same-day adoptions. We're going to make this process easier. We did have some difference of opinion, I think, between myself, between other people that were working at the shelter, even some board members, because one of our biggest things that we changed was we went from I think a 7-page adoption application to now we have a half a page where basically they just give us their information so that we can process the paperwork and get their microchip registered accordingly. But just so that was really the first small steps, but really we just tried to change our entire attitude and our entire perception in the community. So we really went with that we trust people. We trust that people are coming in for the right reasons. We trust our staff. We trust each other. We're going to give people the benefit of the doubt. We're going to work with people. That's really what our core values are. And I think that's really what has made us successful.
It's interesting because it's such a, well, from my perspective, it's such a small step. And though it's hard, really, really hard. But truly, this idea of trusting first can make a world of difference. So this just came up the other day for me. Just somebody was asking me about it. I'm curious. When you decided to start trusting first, did you see a response in the community where maybe you stopped getting attacked as much? The negativity stopped. Like, what was the community's response to this?
I think absolutely, and I think I felt like, and still do continue to feel like, I'm not fighting the battles alone. So do we still get some negative feedback on Facebook or social media? You bet. But usually I don't even have to respond anymore because people take care of it for me. You know, there's just enough people that believe in what we're doing and give us the benefit of the doubt, just like we do for them. I mean, it really goes back to kind of a treat others how you want to be treated. And so if you want people to trust you, you have to trust them too. So yeah, I think absolutely. And for us, 100% donations and support, time, volunteering, all of that followed this different attitude from us for sure.
Nice. And because of all of this, how many animals did you go from helping, and now how many do you help?
This is one of our most impressive, right? We're probably the most proud of this statistic. So prior to this transition, they were only adopting out about 130 animals a year annually. And again, just not a good perception in the community. People just, it wasn't a place anybody wanted to go. And now we are adopting out between 800 and 900 a year.
Nice. Yeah. And how many does your facility hold?
Well, that has changed over this transition as well, because the other facet to everything that we have done is tried to work within the parameters of what can we do. This is how, and just been okay with that. This is how many staff we have. This is how much room we have. And we're going to work with people to make what we have available work for them also. So we don't turn people away, but we try to work through it together, you know, during high times, right? Cats are typically the high time issue. We don't really have that with dogs as much. So on average, our facility can comfortably hold about 20 dogs. And I would say our sweet spot number for cats is between 30 and 40. And I'm not going to say that in the summer we don't have more than that, because we certainly do sometimes, but we really try to keep it. But honestly, if we have more dogs than 20, it's always because of transport. And cats, we have just been, I should knock on wood, we have just been very, very fortunate, especially this past year, to just be able to keep our cat numbers at really manageable levels.
Nice. Well, and what it shows you is if you go from 130 to 800 and you don't have a relatively large facility to be housing these animals, then your length of stay has reduced significantly in order to be able to get these animals in homes.
Yeah, you bet. Our length of stay, like I said, was originally about right around the 3-month time frame overall for the shelter, and now we're at less than 10 days.
Nice. That's awesome. And with your dogs, do you guys hold any contracts with city or county?
We do, various city. So all of our cities get the option. And so we have contracts with not all of the municipalities. Most of the bigger ones do contract with us in our county. But yeah, we do have straight, and that's dogs and cats.
Oh, okay. So that does play a role. I just want to I want to clarify for anyone that is watching or listening that isn't in the animal environment or in the sheltering environment, that's a big deal, because you've required holds. And so the fact that you've reduced your length of stay and you have a required hold is really something. It's good. So when you made this kind of cultural change, did you see a lot of people exiting the organization?
We did. We did. And it was hard. It needed to be done in hindsight, right? I mean, I remember that being such a difficult time because I would say that we lost the majority of our staff and all fairly quickly. You know, there were plenty of days that, you know, I was there calling into my other job and there in the morning, you know, taking care of animals, and not just me, our board members as well. And then some of the staff that we did retain, we all just kind of pulled it together and got it done. We had board members go in at 8:00 at night to give medication to dogs and things like that. So it was not an easy time. But if I look at the difference now versus then, at the staff that we have who are committed and engaged and fully back the process and want to be there and support everything that we're doing, it's a night and day difference. And I look at our staff now and we've got higher retention than we've ever had. So all good things came from it, but it was not an easy time for sure.
And so because there might be people who are going through this right now, or people who know they have to make this change, like they are aware that things are not going as well as they want to, but they're scared. What advice would you give, even in just self-help, and be able to make this switch?
Yeah, we were scared too, and my board was scared. I feel like I was quite a bit younger then, and so I wasn't quite as scared as maybe I would be in my older years now. But at the time, you feel invincible a little bit. But our board was very scared to make the change because nobody has extra time, right? So they think we're not going to be able to do it. You know, my advice is to take it in steps, find pieces, and because it's very overwhelming that when you start to look at an organization and everything that you want to do, and you start reading all of these, you know, ideas. And we had consultants. We were very lucky that we have the UW shelter medicine program that was able to help us right in our backyard. So, but they come with this huge amount of suggestions, and you're just like, we can't get all this done. Are you kidding me? So you just take it a piece at a time and get it done, and then just keep getting good people on your side and in your corner, people who are as committed as you are to it and who believe in it. Like I said, the changes are night and day, and in the long run, it's so much better for the animals, for the organization. And, you know, I'm not having to go there every day and clean cat boxes anymore. That's the furthest thing from my mind at this point. So that's a far cry from when we had employees who, even when they were there, weren't there for the right reasons. So.
Right. And I always try to tell people that if you know you're scared, like you know that lean into it. Like, don't let that control you because what I find is basically we went through so much of the same transitions and changes that you went through. And I'm not afraid to say it was hell. Like it was really bad, but it's finding people that were extremely like-minded. So I knew that I was doing the right thing. And we were lucky like you and had these really wonderful resources that backed us, and they would tell me, it's okay, you can do this because there's research and we've done it and it's going to be okay. So if anybody is out there and they're going through this change, they can contact me or you for moral support.
Yeah. And the other thing is you just have to kind of be able to let things roll off, right? Because no matter what you do in this business, somebody's going to be unhappy or they don't understand, and it's a very emotional business. You know, maybe somebody's not happy with my accounting business, but nobody cares about that like they do about animals, right? Yeah. And so you have to just be able to let things roll off and be confident in yourself and know that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing, is that when you're getting beat up, you have to know and hold true that what you're doing is the right thing. Yeah. Otherwise, man, it can get pretty easy to fold. And the other part, I don't know about you, because when I made this change, I had been a member of this team for like 3 years.
Oh.
And all of a sudden having this awakening that there were people on my management team that weren't in line with my belief system. That was really hard for me because I cared about these people. They weren't just strangers walking into an organization. And then trying to do that coaching and counseling work to see if there was an opportunity to change minds, and realizing that there wasn't was really hard.
I think that, and I think for us, we really struggled with, I didn't have that same kind of relationship because I hadn't been around for that long, but some of the people who were there had been very loyal to the organization. And I think that just overall, we felt a sense of loyalty to them too. But at some point you have to be able, because they've been through it, right? They've been through it and come in extra and done all of these things and worked so hard, because it is, no matter what position you have in a shelter, it's a very difficult and almost thankless job at times. And so they had really worked through some serious things with the shelter. But in the end, we just had to make the decision to move forward and do what we knew in our hearts was the right thing to do.
Kensie, how do you feel? I know one of the hard parts about being in this work is that we're working with owners that are in sometimes an emotional crisis. And how do you feel about owners who are faced with the hard decision to surrender their animals?
Well, I feel terrible, right? I mean, that is, again, a difference in how we're approaching people compared to how we used to. So our first approach with people is always, well, what can we do to help you? Do you want to keep this animal? Is there a chance that it could go back in your home? What can we do? So we have formed partnerships with several different other community organizations within Dodge County, where we board animals for domestic violence type of situations, even situations where people need to go into some kind of rehabilitation or long-term care type of facility, but they do anticipate going back home. We really try to work through all of those situations with the community and either board the animals or foster the animals or do something so that they can return to homes. The other thing that we did put into place was a pet food and supply pantry that we refer to as Hank's Bank. Hank was a dog that was close for us. And so we have been able to keep several animals in homes just by letting people have free supplies and keep them that way. So all of that is very important to us, to keep them in homes if that's what people want. Now, that being said, there's still some times where that's just not feasible.
Right.
I really go in and try to encourage staff to go in with the attitude that most people don't want to give up their pet, that they're just in some kind of a situation. We both know that's not always the case, right? Sometimes people just do want to, and that's okay too. I mean, I guess my feeling on it is, if they come to us, that's still the responsible thing versus just turning the animal outside or any of the various other horrible things that we've all seen on the internet that people can do.
Right.
So I would much rather have an open door policy and make people feel like we're here to help versus shaming people. I guess I just don't believe that does anybody any good.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that we have this dynamic where, let's pretend that we're a hospital for human medicine, right? And we're the main hospital in the community. And someone comes in crisis and we shame them for needing the service we provide. And that we as animal welfare people have been doing that for years, where, and I talk to shelters where they're like, yeah, and then they call us, or I'm not going to give them our information on the website or share our saying that we take surrenders at all because we want to discourage them as much as possible. And it's like, yeah, but you are the community resource. So in some ways you want people to come to you for adoptions and you want people to look at you as a community resource, but when they really need you, you shame them for needing you. It's very contrary to so much. So I'm wondering,
horrible. And it's just horrible, right? I mean, it's just not the way that people in general, and part of how we change things, and people sometimes don't like when I say it this way, is that we are a retail business. It's animals and their lives, and I love them all and all of that, but this is still a business, and we need to do what we can do to have people choose to come in here, because they can go to the pet store up the street or to Facebook or wherever. So if you want them to come here, then you have to treat them as such. So that's a hard
You have a customer facing business.
You bet.
And you can't segment which customers are important and you're going to be kind to, and which, they should all be treated equally. Yeah. So in all of your safety net programs that you've listed, are you tracking that data?
We are not. It's I'm sure we could, but I'm not sure, especially the Hanks Bank, because we really don't ask a lot of questions. I mean, that was really our goal when we set that up, was if people need it, come and get it. I'm not, again, that was another struggle, even with staff, but on a board level too. Should we be looking at income documentation and all? No. Because first of all, I'm not going to police that. I don't have time. And second, I don't care. As long as they want to feed their cat, I mean, and then the other piece of this is that Hanks Bank costs the shelter no money. That is just what we do, is all of the donations of things that we either have too many of the donations or it doesn't work with how our system is set up, go in there and it is full all the time. So for that, we're very blessed, right? We live in a community that's extremely generous to each other through that, and then also to us. So
that's nice. And the community, or the food bank, we do the same thing. And what we do is try to track how many bags we give out a week. Okay. So then we can tally that. And we just found out that at the end of the year, we gave out 7 tons of dog and cat food.
Wow.
And I encourage you to do it, because the number works. It ends up being huge, way more than what you guys probably realize you're doing. Yeah. And I think it's important too, what you're saying, that why do we care? Like, we run into this with spay and neuter clinics too, is, you need to make sure their income is, they're low income and they really need you. And my thought is, how does it serve the animal? Mm-hmm. If our goal is to serve the animal, then holding the human accountable to some financial standard isn't serving animal. Because if that human doesn't think they can afford a regular priced clinic, then they may never actually go to that clinic, and we're still providing the service to the animal. It's right. Diving into why are we doing this? What's our why? What is the point? We're not policing people. Mm-hmm. Our job is to serve animals.
We went through that very same concept when we stopped doing things like landlord checks and reference checks and things like that, because we had to ask ourselves the why. Why do I care if somebody is a bad tenant? I don't. I care if they take care of their dog. I don't. So we had to really, that same question, that why do we do this, I think is a huge factor in how this transition all happens. Because there's just so many things in old school sheltering that we just do because we've always done them. Yeah. And that, we need to get past all that.
Yeah. The standards. So have you seen a decrease in your owner surrenders because of your safety net programs, or are you, because you're helping more,
I actually think we saw an increase, but I do think it is because of our just policies in general being just more open door. I think that before we probably had the same numbers coming through, but I think people were being more encouraged to lie. And say that this is a cat that we found, when really, and again, we don't want to encourage that, right? I want to get as much background on your cat as I can. So let's just call a spade, and let's all just talk openly and honestly, and we won't make you feel terrible for having to get rid of your cat. Right. So I think we've actually seen an uptick, but I do think that we're getting better information, more truthful. So I think the numbers are probably more reflective, but I do know for sure that with all of those programs, we have kept several animals out of the shelter completely as well.
Well, and you build great community relations. You've increased your influence in the community, because if you see somebody that has a chain around their dog's neck and you don't like that, instead of shaming them, you have the opportunity, because of the work you've done and your reputation, to be able to influence a different behavior. It sounds, you guys are doing really amazing work, and I commend you. And I really hope that this podcast provides some hope for shelters, that it's a really interesting world when I have the opportunity to talk to shelters all over because of Home to Home. And it is super interesting. There are a lot of shelters that are really trying to do the right thing and struggle. And then there are other shelters that are like, woohoo, you guys are doing great.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to be able to introduce successful organizations that can help other people.
Yeah, it's amazing, and all the connections, the animal community, there's so many of us, but it's such a tight-knit group still, so the people that you meet and everybody's perspectives, it's interesting for sure.
Yes, and and I had the opportunity to interview Shep Hyken.
Okay.
And he wrote a customer service book. It's called The Cult of the Customer.
Okay.
And I would highly recommend it, because it's basically supports everything that you're doing. But what's cool about it is, in the back, it gives you tools on how to increase your customer service by taking basically what you're doing, but you systemize it. So everybody's connection with your organization ends up being similar. It was a really good, very interesting read for me.
Okay.
Well, just to wrap up, Kensie, is there anything else that you would like to share with the world, since you have a platform?
It all really comes down to having good people and believing in those people. And what that means is not just the people within your organization, but outside of the organization too. It all follows. And so being able to put together a good team, having the support of the community, the good volunteers, all of those things just kind of follow suit. And so I think if there is one thing that we did, it was learning to trust one another, for sure.
Yeah. Collaboration.
Yeah.
No more us and them. It's we.
Yep.
I love it. I love that you guys are really being an inspiration, and you're doing wonderful things, and it feels so good, I bet, to be a part of an amazing community.
Yeah, it has been a wonderful experience. Not an easy experience, but a rewarding one for sure.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you being on with me today. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to People Are Animals Too, Darn It. You can send your questions or feedback to mandy@peopleareanimals2.com. MANDY@peopleareanimals2.com.